This is Rummy's Corner. There have been many awesome rivalries during the long, rich history of professional boxing. And in the last 15 years or so, the most famous among these is certainly the epic rivalry between Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao and Juan Manuel Marquez. To this day, fans are still engaged in heated debate over any and all aspects of this fantastic quadrilogy. So who really won the rivalry between Manny Pacquiao and Juan Manuel Marquez? Aside from the fans, of course. In order to try and answer that question, let's take a quick look back at all four of their bouts on a round-by-round basis. On May 8th, 2004, at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada, lineal featherweight champion Manny Pacquiao squared off against a unified WBA IBF featherweight champion Juan Manuel Marquez. Things began with a feeling out process as Pacquiao and Marquez were both trying to discover their range. Marquez found the mark with some nice rights early. About halfway through the round, Pacquiao drilled the champion with a laser left that sent Marquez down. Marquez beat the count, and Pacquiao started firing off some menacing lefts, and Marquez was down again. The champion again beat the count, but he looked badly dazed, and a relentless assault from the Pac-Man had Marquez down for the third time. Marquez again bravely beat the count, and he exhibited amazing heart as he survived the final 30 seconds of the round while being tagged repeatedly by the bludgeoning left hand of Manny Pacquiao. I scored the first round 10-6 for Pacquiao, as did judges Jutras and Stewart, whereas Clement strangely had it 10-7 for Pacquiao. In round 2, Pacquiao resumed firing off his lethal left, as Marquez attempted to create more space to try and regain his composure. Many of Pacquiao's lefts were still slipping through, but Marquez was better positioned and better able to absorb them. As the round progressed, Marquez grew more comfortable as he found a more suitable range, and he even started landing some nice leather of his own. Pacquiao did the better work in this round, but Marquez made several key adjustments that certainly disrupted Pacquiao's rhythm and momentum. I had the second round 10-9 for Pacquiao, as did Stewart and Clements, with Jutra scoring the round for Marquez. Marquez was doing a much better job neutralizing Pacquiao's attacks in round 3. Marquez also began landing some nice body shots, and he began finding more success when throwing counter right hands. Pacquiao was trying to find openings for his left, but Marquez wasn't giving him the same windows of opportunity. There was a lot of posturing and positioning and repositioning, but Marquez was more effective, and the third round concluded with a spirited exchange. I scored round 3 for Juan Manuel Marquez, as did all 3 of the official judges. Marquez continued his tactical success from the previous round to begin the fourth, and he continued embracing his role as a patient counterpuncher. Pacquiao remained a little baffled, and he was having trouble finding a worthy target because of the stellar positioning of Marquez. There wasn't a lot of offense from either guy in this round, but Marquez was still more effective, and the fight was being fought at a rhythm that was more to Marquez's liking. I scored the fourth round for Marquez, as did judges Jutras and Stewart, whereas Clements had the round for Pacquiao. Pacquiao's offensive woes continued in round 5, as Marquez was very patient, but patient with a purpose. Marquez continued digging some nice shots to the body, and he rocked Pacquiao with a mean right hand. Pacquiao took it well and soon retaliated with a wicked left, but Marquez absorbed it well. Some fireworks erupted late in the round, and Marquez got the best of this heated exchange. Marquez appeared to be growing in confidence, and Pacquiao was still struggling to re-establish his offensive groove. I scored round 5 for Marquez, as did all 3 of the official judges. Marquez continued making some nice investments downstairs in round 6. Pacquiao landed a nice body shot of his own, but Marquez fired back with a booming right hand that staggered Pac-Man. Marquez followed up with a short combination, and by this point the momentum was clearly all Marquez as he began opening up with more and more precise short combinations. Pacquiao was looking mighty confused as he continued having difficulty creating openings on offense. I scored the 6th round for Marquez, and so did all 3 of the official judges. So at the halfway point in the fight, I personally had it 56-55 for Pacquiao. Bert Clements had it scored 57-55 for Pacquiao. Guy Jutras had it 56-55 for Marquez. And Jon Stewart had it 56-55 for Pacquiao. Marquez picked up where he left off to begin round 7. Marquez continued countering well, Pacquiao continued struggling offensively, and Marquez began taking the initiative more often. Pacquiao did land a few nice lefts, but Marquez took them well, and Marquez was still outboxing the Pac-Man, and Marquez was still getting the best of most of the exchanges. Pacquiao drilled Marquez with a flush left at the end of the 7th, but Marquez still did the better work, even if Pacquiao had more offensive success than he had in quite some time. I scored round 7 for Marquez, as did judges Clements and Jutras, whereas Stewart had it for Pacquiao. The tactical chess match continued in the 8th, where Marquez continued embracing counterpunching tactics, as Pacquiao was trying to build on his improved offensive effort from the previous round. There wasn't a whole lot of offense from either boxer in this round, with both guys having some isolated spots of success. It was a very close round that was arguably the most difficult round to score to this point. I still thought Marquez was slightly better, so I scored the 8th for Marquez, but all 3 of the official judges scored this round for Manny Pacquiao. In round 9, Marquez continued doing good work, but Pacquiao began finding sneaky ways to land more shots. They weren't devastating shots like he was landing in the opening round, but they were still scoring shots that enabled Pacquiao to disrupt Marquez's momentum. Pacquiao was also exhibiting some better defensive technique in this round, and he began frequently blocking incoming fire. Pacquiao even managed to land a snappy uppercut, and he began using his jab more, which is something that had largely been absent. Pacquiao had finally made some of the necessary tactical adjustments, and he was more successful because of it. I scored round 9 for Manny Pacquiao, as did Judge Stewart, whereas Jutras and Clements both had the round for Marquez. Pacquiao appeared to have a little extra bounce in his step to begin the 10th. Marquez landed a nice counter right early in the round, and Pacquiao landed a nice right hook. A heated exchange broke out that saw both boxers having moments. But over the final stretch of the round, Pacquiao was once again dialed in with his left hand, and he landed several clubbing, speedy shots. It was another competitive round, but Pacquiao was landing more, and he was landing harder. I had round 10 for Pacquiao, as did judges Clements and Stewart, whereas Jutras had the 10th for Marquez. The 11th round was a tricky one to score. Things began tactically with both boxers looking to strategically create openings. Marquez was doing a better job neutralizing Pacquiao's left early on, and this enabled Marquez to land some well-timed short combinations. But Pacquiao started creating more openings of his own later in the round, and Pacquiao was landing what appeared to be the heavier shots. But Marquez was the one who seemed to be doing the better overall work during this particular 3-minute stretch. I had Marquez just edging round 11 on my card. Clements and Jutras also both scored the 11th for Marquez, whereas Stewart had it for Pacquiao. In the 12th and final round, Pacquiao drilled Marquez with a booming left early on, and Marquez soon fired back with a menacing right. It was another close competitive round where Pacquiao and Marquez were both having moments, but I thought the left hands landed by Pacquiao tended to be more effective than the sneaky right hands from Marquez. It was a tremendous show of heart and determination from both boxers as they closed out the show in admirable fashion. I had Pacquiao edging the 12th and final round on my card, but all three judges scored the final round for Marquez. At the end of the night, the fight was officially ruled a draw. Bert Clements scored it even at 113 apiece. Guy Jutras scored it 115-110 for Juan Manuel Marquez, and Jon Stewart scored it 115-110 for Manny Pacquiao. I personally thought Pacquiao just edged it, but I certainly thought it was close enough that it reasonably could have gone either way. And the fact that the official judges were all over the place here, I believe this is indicative of the fact that this one was a judging nightmare. On March 15, 2008, at the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, WBC junior lightweight champion Juan Manuel Marquez put his title on the line against challenger Manny Pacquiao. The action began tactically as both boxers were looking to become reacquainted. There was a lot of mutual respect on display, with Pacquiao and Marquez both reluctant to overextend. Pacquiao was trying to jab more, and Marquez got his attention with about a minute left in the opening stanza. Both boxers remained cool and patient, and Pacquiao snuck in a nice left hand. It was a super close and competitive round that reasonably could have been scored either way. I personally thought Marquez just edged it, having landed the best punch in the round, but all three of the official judges scored the round for Pacquiao. Pacquiao continued trying to jab his way inside early in the second. Marquez was also trying to lead at times, and both boxers were very defensively aware. They were both sometimes missing just short with efforts to counterpunch, and Marquez then found his target with a reaching left hand. A nice exchange broke out where each guy was sneaking in some well-placed blows, and as the round was drawing near its conclusion, Marquez drilled Pacquiao with a number of beautifully timed counters. I gave round 2 to Marquez, and all three official judges did as well. Marquez caught Pacquiao with a quick counter left fairly early in the third. Pacquiao was still using his jab to try and find openings for his left, and he was having some success with this. But Marquez soon walked Pacquiao into a booming right hand. Pacquiao took it well, and he was still committed to trying to jab his way inside. As round 3 was winding down, Pacquiao clobbered him with a beautiful short left. Marquez was down, and he appeared to be pretty badly shaken. He made it to his feet, and Pacquiao tried following up as the two traded furiously until the round was over, with Marquez almost going down again. I scored the third round 10-8 for Pacquiao, as did all three of the official judges. Pacquiao appeared to have more confidence as he went on the attack to start the fourth. Some nice little exchanges broke out early, and Pacquiao was getting the best of them. Manny was also finding different ways to land crisp left hands, and while Marquez was still having some effective spots, Pacquiao was now winning the battle of tactics and executing more effectively. And this was largely due to the fact that Pacquiao's right hand was becoming a bigger factor in his strategy. I had round 4 for Manny Pacquiao, and all three of the official judges did too. Pacquiao was firing off his jab in round 5, and while it wasn't always landing, it was effectively disrupting Marquez's rhythm. Pacquiao was having some nice moments, but as the round progressed, Marquez began finding ways to counter more accurately. Pacquiao was still utilizing his right hand well, and he was still finding ways to land sneaky left hands. Later in the round, Marquez drilled Pacquiao with a beautiful right hand, and this was another super close competitive round. But I thought Pacquiao did better work in round 5. All three official judges, however, disagreed. They all scored the 5th for Marquez. Pacquiao landed a crunching left hand early in the 6th, but Marquez soon retaliated with a stiff right. About a minute into the round, Marquez landed another booming right that caught Pacquiao off guard. Marquez had appeared to make a subtle adjustment as he was soon finding new ways to land some hammering right hands. With Marquez's newfound success with the right, Pacquiao stopped using his own right hand the way he had been. And because of this, Marquez was able to frequently create more favorable angles. I scored round 6 for Juan Manuel Marquez, as did Judge Roth. Miller and Ford both scored the 6th for Pacquiao. So at the halfway point in the contest, Tom Miller and Dwayne Ford both had Pacquiao up 58-55, and Jerry Roth had Pacquiao up 57-56, which is also the same score that I had. In round 7, Marquez started throwing more lead lefts both downstairs and up. Pacquiao was trying to work behind his jab again, but Marquez was offsetting this by leading more often, especially with left hands. They were both still looking to create openings for their respective money punches, but the tactical dynamics had shifted focus somewhat. An accidental clash of heads prompted referee Kenny Bayless to briefly halt the action, and when action resumed, the peculiar shift in strategies resumed, with Pacquiao trying to re-establish his right and Marquez trying to gain traction with his left. Pacquiao's right hand was winning this mini battle, but Marquez stood his ground and battled. It was another crazy close round. I thought Marquez edged it in round 7, and all 3 of the official judges also scored it for Marquez. In round 8, Marquez resumed getting off first with his left, and this was creating openings. Pacquiao was no longer using his right, and Marquez began attacking ferociously. Not only was Marquez consistently getting off first with his left, but he also began countering more effectively and walking Pacquiao directly into traps. Marquez was exceptional in this round, and with his left hand consistently being far more effective than Pacquiao's right, Marquez was able to easily dictate the action to his liking. Pacquiao was taking the shots well, and he was still battling, but Marquez was outboxing him with authority. I scored round 8 for Marquez, as did all 3 of the official judges. The 9th began with Marquez getting off first with a nice left, but Pacquiao was soon flicking out his right jab again. They weren't landing, but they were keeping Marquez distracted. Before long, Pacquiao was using his right to begin attacking more effectively like he had been earlier. Marquez, however, was still getting off first more often than not, even if Pacquiao was landing the better shots when he did land. Marquez delivered a terrific right late in the round, and this ignited a firefight that lasted to the final bell. I thought Pacquiao edged it in round 9, although it was very close. Roth scored the round for Marquez, and judges Miller and Ford scored the 9th for Pacquiao. Pacquiao landed a left-hand bomb early in round 10, and Marquez was hurt. Pac-Man went on the attack, but Marquez kept cool under fire and quickly regained his composure. Pacquiao was patient, and he didn't overextend, and he soon drilled Marquez with a sweet counter left. Marquez was still trying, but his attacks were mostly ineffective, while Pacquiao was patiently finding ways to hit home with his left. I scored round 10 for Manny Pacquiao, and all 3 of the official judges also had it for Pacquiao. Marquez was warned by Bayless for a low blow early in round 11, and after that, Marquez had reclaimed the tactical advantage. Marquez was very resourceful, and he was finding all types of ways to land sharp right hands. Pacquiao landed a booming left late in the round, but prior to that, he wasn't all that effective in this round. I had round 11 for Marquez, and all 3 of the official judges also scored it for Juan Manuel. In the 12th and final round, both boxers understandably looked exhausted, but Marquez was the one who seemed to have that little something extra left in the tank. Marquez was consistently doing the better work, and while Pacquiao did have some spots of success, Marquez was the one who commanded most of the action in round 12. I scored the final round for Juan Manuel Marquez, as did judges Miller and Roth, whereas Ford scored the final round for Manny Pacquiao. At the end of the night, Manny Pacquiao was awarded a split decision victory. Tom Miller scored it 114-113 for Pacquiao. Dwayne Ford had it 115-112 for Pacquiao. And Jerry Roth had it 115-112 for Marquez. I personally thought Marquez just edged it this time, but once again, I certainly thought it was close enough that it reasonably could have gone either way. It was another absolute judging nightmare. On November 12, 2011, at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada, WBO welterweight champion Manny Pacquiao defended his title against Juan Manuel Marquez at a catchweight of 144 pounds. Things began tactically, with both prize fighters showing one another mutual respect. Pacquiao was trying to utilize his jab early on, and Marquez was looking to establish his left. It was almost like a continuation of the battle of lead hands we saw in the rematch. Pacquiao was using his right hand more frequently, and it helped him establish some openings. It was a cautious beginning for both, but Pacquiao did more in the opening round. I scored the first round for Pacquiao, as did all three of the official judges. Things remained cautious and tactical in round 2. Marquez started countering more effectively when Pacquiao threw, but both were still very selective with their offensive maneuvers. Pacquiao and Marquez were each trying to focus some attention on the body, but Marquez was the one who seemed to be discovering a better overall rhythm, and he was boxing more effectively. I scored round 2 for Marquez, as did Judge Moretti, whereas Hoyle and Trowbridge scored it for Pacquiao. Round 3 started with a familiar pattern, as both boxers were doing a lot of posturing as they studiously searched for favorable punching angles. Marquez nailed Pacquiao with a sneaky uppercut, and the intriguing battle for position resumed. They were both fighting very intelligently, but Marquez was a touch more clever when it came to finding resourceful ways to land. And whenever Pacquiao did land, Marquez almost always came back with something. Pacquiao landed a crisp counter as the round drew towards its end, and the two traded until the final bell. I had round 3 for Marquez, but all three of the official judges scored this round for Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao began landing some sharper punches early on in the 4th. Pacquiao was also finding ways to press his speed advantage, but Marquez kept his cool. Juan Manuel started having better spots during the later parts of the round, but Pacquiao neutralized most of his efforts. As the round was ending, the two boxers traded, and Pacquiao snuck in 2 damaging blows. I scored round 4 for Manny Pacquiao, but all three of the official judges scored this one for Marquez. Marquez opened up with an attack early in round 5, and Pacquiao was defensively sound. There weren't a whole lot of sharp punches being landed, but once again, Marquez was the one being just a little more clever when it came to creating favorable angles. Pacquiao wasn't using his jab much in this round, which enabled Marquez to get off first whenever he found an open lane. And Marquez drilled Pacquiao with some well-timed shots late in the round. I had the 5th round for Marquez, as did all three of the official judges scoring the contest. The basic rhythm continued into round 6, with a lot of feinting, a lot of posturing, a lot of maneuvering for position, and a brilliant tactical clash of wills. Each boxer was having his spots of success. Marquez may have had a few more moments, but Pacquiao's moments tended to be more explosive. It was a super competitive round that reasonably could have been scored either way. I myself thought Pacquiao edged it in round 6, and all three of the judges also scored the 6th for Pacquiao. So at the halfway point, Robert Hoyle and Glenn Trowbridge both had it 58-56 for Manny Pacquiao, and Judge Dave Moretti had it at 57 apiece, which is the same score I had midway through. The intellectual chess match resumed to begin round 7, and early on Marquez delivered a mean right hand that nailed the mark. Whenever Pacquiao went on the attack, Marquez was usually able to dance out of harm's way with tremendous footwork. Marquez also was still finding ways to create sneaky openings. Pacquiao was most effective when he worked behind his jab, but far too often he was neglecting his right and allowing Marquez to get off first. I scored round 7 for Marquez, as did all 3 of the official judges. Pacquiao continued looking perplexed throughout the first half of round 8. Marquez wasn't doing a whole lot offensively, but what he was doing was far more effective. Marquez was very innovative in finding ways to deliver well-timed shots, and Pacquiao wasn't using his jab effectively, or using it much at all for that matter. Pacquiao did find a home for a nice left near the end of the round, but Marquez was the one who was dictating the flow, and he was scoring more frequently. I scored round 8 for Marquez, as did Judge Hoyle, whereas Moretti and Trowbridge both scored it for Pacquiao. Marquez continued attacking more effectively early in round 9, but then it was Pacquiao who began finding clever ways to land sneaky shots. The 2 boxers exchanged more in this round, and Pacquiao seemed to be getting the best of the back and forth. But Marquez stood his ground strong and continued having his own spots of success. It wound up being another razor-thin, super close round. I scored round 9 for Manny Pacquiao, as did Moretti and Trowbridge, while Hoyle scored the 9th for Marquez. The intensity level remained high in round 10. Both boxers were looking a little fatigued, but both were still displaying world-class determination in this tactical engagement. There were some heated exchanges in the round, but both boxers were beginning to miss wider off the mark in the midst of battle. This was yet another competitive round with very little separating the 2 prize fighters. I thought Pacquiao edged it in the 10th round, as did judges Moretti and Trowbridge. Hoyle scored round 10 for Marquez. Things began slowly and cautiously early in round 11, but things soon heated up where the round was defined by a series of separate short exchanges. Sometimes Pacquiao seemed to get the best of these moments, and other times it was Marquez who seemed to be working more effectively. Neither Pacquiao nor Marquez was consistently punching as sharply as they had been earlier, but they were both still finding ways to land on the target. I thought Marquez edged it in round 11, and Moretti also scored the round for Marquez. Hoyle and Trowbridge scored the 11th for Pacquiao. In the 12th and final round, Manny Pacquiao is the one who seemed to have a greater sense of urgency. He was throwing more punches, and while he wasn't overly effective, he was still landing some shots. Marquez was embracing defensively oriented tactics, and while he did open up with some decent shots here and there, Pacquiao was out-hustling him down the final stretch of the contest. I scored round 12 for Manny Pacquiao, as did Hoyle and Moretti, whereas Trowbridge had the 12th round for Marquez. At the end of the night, Manny Pacquiao was awarded a majority decision victory. Robert Hoyle had it even at 114 apiece. Dave Moretti had it 115-113 for Pacquiao, and Glenn Trowbridge scored it 116-112 for Pacquiao. I personally thought this one was a draw, and yet again, I certainly thought it was close enough that it reasonably could have gone either way, or indeed have been ruled a draw. It was yet another absolute judging nightmare. On December 8, 2012, at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada, Manny Pacquiao and career rival Juan Manuel Marquez would meet yet again for the 4th battle in their epic rivalry. Both boxers began the 4th contest a bit more aggressively than they had during their previous encounter. Pacquiao was the one who was especially more aggressive, and while both boxers were having some early spots of success, Pacquiao was more energetic with his attacks. Pacquiao was also keeping his attacks short and managing to dart out of harm's way before Marquez could try and counter. As the round drew towards a close, Pacquiao caught Marquez with a nice counter of his own. I scored the opening round for Pacquiao, as did all three of the official judges. Things began with a more tactical and deliberate rhythm in round 2, but Pacquiao was still busier, and he was still effectively attacking in ways that minimized Marquez's countering opportunities. Marquez started landing a little better in this round, but Pacquiao was still controlling the action and executing better. I scored round 2 for Pacquiao, and all three judges did as well. In round 3, Pacquiao continued being busier and more effective, as he was simply throwing more and landing more. Pacquiao was fighting with a great level of intensity and a heightened sense of determination. A bit past the halfway point in the round, Marquez flicked out his left before delivering a thunderous right hand that drove Pacquiao down to the canvas. Pacquiao quickly managed his way back to his feet. Marquez remained cool and collected and patiently went back to business, where he was boxing well and landing some nice crisp shots. Pacquiao seemed to have cleared his head over the last 30 seconds, and the round ended with both men trading. I scored the 4th round 10-8 for Juan Manuel Marquez, as did all three of the official judges scoring the contest. Round 4 began with Marquez getting off first more often than not. Pacquiao countered him with a sweet right hand, and Pacquiao was trying to beat Marquez to the punch, but now it was Marquez who was generally throwing more and landing more. It was a solid bounce-back round for Manny after suffering the knockdown, but Marquez was more effective in the 4th. I scored round 4 for Marquez, as did all three of the official judges. Both boxers were looking to re-establish command of the range early in round 5. Marquez and Pacquiao were both testing the waters with their jabs, and there was a lot of feinting and posturing as each was trying to trigger a mistake to exploit in the other. About a minute into the round, Pacquiao buzzed Marquez with a superbly timed left hand. Marquez touched the canvas, so referee Kenny Bayless began his count. When action resumed, Marquez landed a monster right that Pacquiao took well. Then a firefight broke out with both guys swinging for the fences, and they both landed some absolutely menacing shots. Pacquiao had Marquez hurt again late in the round, but Marquez somehow managed to hold on until the round had ended. I scored the 5th round 10-8 for Manny Pacquiao, and all three of the official judges also had it 10-8 for Pacquiao. Things began tactically in round 6. Both boxers were cautiously feeling things out, and Pacquiao was patient as Marquez seemed to have had his legs back under him. Pacquiao soon unleashed a furious attack where he landed some nice punches. Pacquiao continued attacking ferociously, and Marquez began absorbing some serious punishment. But Pacquiao never overexerted himself, and Marquez started finding isolated spots to unload. As round 6 was drawing towards an end, Pacquiao began getting aggressive, and Marquez walked him right into a monster right. Pacquiao was down, and he would not be beating the count. The fight was over. It was a 6th round knockout for Juan Manuel Marquez. What I personally love so much about this rivalry is how it evolved over the course of 8+ years. The first fight basically boiled down to Pacquiao's offensive explosiveness and Marquez's outstanding abilities as a counterpuncher. It was Pacquiao's dynamite left versus Marquez's quick counter right. And then at some point during their second contest, the main dynamic seemed to evolve into a battle of lead hands, where Pacquiao's right was the key to setting up his left, and Marquez's left was a key to creating openings for his right. That changing dynamic continued into their third fight, where the tactical chess match had now elevated to a new level of mastery. And then the fourth fight, you still have the tactical aspect as the foundation of it all, but both of these guys were really looking to hurt the other with loaded up punches. It was just a spectacular evolution of such an already inherently intriguing clash of styles. When you look back at these 4 amazing matches, very little separated these two boxers. The first fight was a controversial draw that very reasonably could have been scored either way, or indeed a draw. The second fight was a split decision victory for Pacquiao, and again, this very reasonably could have been scored either way, or indeed perhaps a draw. The third fight was a majority decision victory for Pacquiao, where yet again, it could very reasonably have been scored either way, or even a draw. And then even the fourth fight, all 3 judges had Pacquiao ahead by 1 point after 5 rounds. It's interesting to note that all 3 judges had the rounds exactly the same in this one, and I agreed with them across the board. So in that sense, the fourth fight, ironically, seemed like the easiest one to score of the bunch, the one fight that didn't need to go to the scorecards. I personally thought Pacquiao just edged it in their first bout, and then I thought Marquez just edged it in the rematch, and in the third fight I personally had it a draw. So going into the fourth fight, I had them 1-1 and 1 against each other, dead even. So in my eyes, with that fourth fight, Marquez just edged the series if you go fight by fight. However, I'm not a judge, and officially, Pacquiao won the rivalry. Pacquiao has 2 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. So statistically speaking, Pacquiao factually won the rivalry. But on a deeper level, considering how little separated these 2 boxing masters over the course of 42 competitive rounds, I think the definitive conclusion is that Marquez put an exclamation point on the rivalry by scoring that epic 6th round knockout. In other words, Pacquiao may have officially won the rivalry in the record books, but that one lone definitive victory in the group of 4, I think that tells the real story here. In an all-time sense, Pacquiao definitely rates higher than Marquez. I don't think there is any question that Pacquiao's overall body of work in his long and illustrious career is superior to the outstanding body of work for Juan Manuel Marquez. But it's almost ironic that for Marquez, his entire early career, he was living in the shadows of guys like Eric Morales and Marco Antonio Barrera, 2 powerhouse all-time greats in their own right. And after Pacquiao won his respective rivalries with both El Terrible and the baby-faced assassin, Marquez ultimately found himself in a situation where he would be the one who became their conqueror's ultimate nemesis. And the way the styles of Pacquiao and Marquez clashed, it was nothing short of sublime. It's as if the boxing gods blessed the boxing fans and said these 2 guys are going to act like each other's kryptonite, and you get to watch them go to battle 4 times. And the boxing gods further blessed us fans when Joe Cortez decided not to stop the first fight after Marquez suffered his 3rd knockdown in their very first round of action. Nobody would have blamed Cortez if he waved that one off after the 3rd knockdown, and if he did that, chances are pretty strong they may have never fought again. Think of what we would have been cheated out of. At the end of the day, it was an amazing rivalry where the big winner was us boxing fans. Thanks for watching, everyone, and a special thanks to the Nevada State Athletic Commission for helping me secure the scores from the 4th fight. Hope you enjoyed watching, everyone, and have a wonderful night. This is Rummy's Corner.